Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Ned Bellavance, Ned1313 on Twitter, and welcome to the daily check-in for April 29th, 2020. This is going to be a little bit different one because I'm not recording this live. I'm not live streaming to YouTube because I am going to be on the Tech Field Day delegate panel for the Red Hat Virtual Summit. That'll be coming up later, and I'm going to be on pretty much all day. So won't have the opportunity to record this as a live stream. So I thought, I'll record this earlier. I'll miss out on any potential comments from some people dropping in, but that's okay. I'll be back doing this live tomorrow on Thursday. So with that out of the way, a couple quick housekeeping things. One, I don't know if people know, but I also have a podcast called Day 2 Cloud, and that's going to be germane to this conversation because I'm going to be talking about Flexera's State of the Cloud report for 2020. For those who aren't familiar with this report, it is originally called the RightScale State of the Cloud report, but then RightScale was purchased by Flexera. So if there's a little confusion there, that's why. RightScale was purchased, and so the name of the report had to change. It's a very popular report, and they've been doing it for a number of years. I think that's the only housekeeping item I have. So if you are interested, go to Day 2 Cloud, and 2 spelled out, day2cloud.io to find the show, and we talk about all things cloudy, especially day 2 operations and cloud adoption, migration, like all the kinds of things that you might have questions about if you're diving into the cloudy world that's out there. With that out of the way, just want to check in with everyone. How you doing? It's Wednesday. That's progress. We made it to Wednesday. Tomorrow's Thursday, and then it's almost the weekend, which is exactly like every other day, but you can pretend that it's different. And really, all of this is psychological. So just bear that in mind as you're working your way through what we're all kind of going through right now. I know I am, and it's basically a mind game with me. And as someone who recently adopted to work from home about a year ago, I can tell you that the movement from working at an office to work from home was a psychological shift, and this has been less of a shift for me because I already had done that shift a bit. Everybody's going through that shift right now, so if you know someone who works from home, talk to them because they may have some tips and tricks to help you make the transition, because it looks like it's going to be a little bit longer than anybody thought. With that out of the way, let's talk about this RightScale report. So Flexera, they did a survey of 750 respondents, and they tried to capture a pretty good variation of people in different roles and people in different size companies. And hopefully those companies were of different stages when it comes to cloud adoption. So they could really get a snapshot of the state of the cloud. That's the whole point of the report. Of course, it's going to be skewed a little bit in one direction or the other. So I want to call that at the beginning. Out of the 750 respondents, a lot of them were cloud architects. So obviously they're already invested in cloud. Many of the respondents were from enterprises. So I think over half of the respondents were from enterprises, which they classify as having 5,000 employees or more. I would say 10,000 employees is probably like maybe we call that big enterprise, but yeah, okay. So more than half the respondents are from an enterprise, and close to half the respondents were already in the mature stage of cloud adoption. So just let that color how you interpret it and apply it to your organization. Just bear in mind that the respondents were coming from a specific perspective, or at least skewed towards the perspective of a cloud architect working in an enterprise that's already mature in the cloud. Okay, so that's sort of the perspective. Now, what were the things that caught my eye in the report? And there's a few, and I jotted them down. First is that the top 3 challenges for both small, medium businesses and enterprises were security, cloud spending, and governance. And that has been the same consistent 3 categories, I think, for the last 4 years running. For a while there, security was the top, and then it dropped down a little bit. And I think security is now the top concern again for obvious reasons. There have been a lot of security issues with both on-prem and cloud stuff, but I think the cloud stuff has been a little more bombastic in nature, so it gets a little more coverage. So that's the thing that people are worried about, and especially enterprises. Enterprises are super worried about that, but really their top concern, or the thing that mature enterprises are concerned about, is cloud spend. They're looking at that budget and going, we've blown out our budget last year. I think the 37% or more of respondents had gone over their cloud budget for last year. And that's not surprising. And they're now looking and going, how can we get that cloud spending under control? So that was something that caught my eye. The other thing is that respondents who are more in the immature stage, just starting their cloud adoption journey, most of them, their main concern is really a lack of resources to do this cloud adoption process. So, bearing that in mind, like if you are someone who's not currently employed and you are looking to skill up on something, cloud is probably the thing to get some experience on. And then you can shop around to these small, medium businesses, maybe pick up some consulting work or go work for one full time. The next thing that was interesting is that 51% are using managed service providers to help them with their cloud to varying degrees. Some, put everything on the MSP. Some are working with an MSP, like the MSP maybe does the day-to-day monitoring, or the MSP does the heavy lifting and you're doing the monitoring. Like the relationship can be structured in a whole bunch of different ways. As someone who used to work for a consulting agency who also did a little bit of MSP and was trying to grow that business, I can tell you there was a lot of demand. It was just getting the MSP model right, which was difficult. The top three clouds, no one's going to be surprised about this, are still AWS, Azure, and GCP in that order. So AWS is still the biggest, but the thing that was noted by the report is that Azure, it continues to catch up. They're still not at parity. AWS still leads the pack, and I don't think that's going to change anytime soon. But where Azure's really making up the difference is with enterprises. Enterprises are traditionally a little slower to move, and they also usually have a lot of legacy or heritage or whatever you want to call them applications that don't make a nice transition to the cloud. They are now looking at ways to make that transition with those parts, which means that Azure tends to be a more friendly and familiar place to move those enterprise workloads. So it's not at all surprising to me that Azure's making up the difference, running traditional virtual machines and moving traditional applications out of data centers and into the cloud. So that's where they're making up the difference between what's in AWS and what's in Azure. The other thing that was interesting about the cloud growth is that GCP is increasing in size very quickly. I think it was a 16% increase year over year. Now, bearing in mind, they're coming from a smaller number that they have to increase off of, so the law of percentages works in their favor. Bearing that in mind, I think it's interesting that they brought on Thomas Kurian last year to head up their Google Cloud initiative, and now you're seeing that additional growth. So there's definitely something there about making that move, and I think he has, whether or not directly contributed, just the optics make Google Cloud more attractive. There's also a trend about multi-cloud and how some ridiculous 93% have a multi-cloud strategy, though most of them are siloing their application by cloud, which makes sense. So if you're going to be using multiple clouds and maybe you don't want to use AWS for whatever reason, well, you're probably going to use Google and Azure. So there could be like a weird partnership thing there. I thought that was interesting too. So those were the growth trends for the clouds. The other growth trend that I thought was interesting is that the adoption of PaaS services, that's platform as a service, has also been increasing pretty dramatically. And there were three areas that it's increased in the most. One was IoT. That makes sense. Generally speaking, if you're doing an IoT deployment, you don't have internal systems that will handle the management of IoT devices and the ingest of data and doing the machine learning and analytics. That you don't have that today. If you're going to build that out, you're probably just going to do it in the cloud because it's a lot easier. And a lot of these start out as, development or pilot projects that grow into something bigger. The next one was container services. Again, not surprising. You could, roll out Kubernetes or something in your internal data center, but it's a lot easier to just spin up an EKS cluster or spin up an AKS cluster and just go. You don't need to worry about setting that up in your data center. So I totally get where that's coming from. The third one that was interesting is database as a service. And I know that DBAs tend to be a little more conservative in the technologies that they want to adopt. They're kind of like storage folks in that sense. Like, I know this works. I want to continue to use this because my thing is that if the data's lost, that's the only thing that my storage system has to do. It has to write data, and then you need to be able to get that data back. And databases are very similar in that vein. You need to be able to put data into a database and get it back. And if the database can't do that, nothing else matters about that database. So bearing that in mind, it makes sense they're a little more conservative. I think at this point, RDS and Azure SQL and Bigtable and all of those databases as a service have now proven themselves. And now DBAs are a little more likely to let go of the reins on what they were controlling and just take advantage of these services that free them up to do something more interesting with their time. I think that's kind of what's going on there. Before I run too long, the last thing that I wanted to bring up, and I thought this was interesting, is that the top two tools for configuration of clouds are Ansible and Terraform. And I can say with 100% certainty that I have seen the massive adoption of Terraform because of the popularity of my Pluralsight courses for getting started with Terraform and the deep dive and using it on Azure. I've seen those courses just continue to be popular. So obviously people are interested. HashiCorp has been getting additional funding. I wrote that Terraform certification guide because there's now a Terraform certification. So all that kind of lines up. Ansible, I feel like I need to dive into. I used it a little bit at my old consulting job, but I haven't had much chance to mess with it now. And I feel like maybe it's time to give Ansible a better look. So that's all the things that I found interesting. There's a lot in this report. It's 68 pages long, so I can't summarize it in 10 minutes. But I thought it'd be interesting to dive into it a little bit, and I'd like to do like a whole Day 2 Cloud episode and bring a couple people on to discuss the report in greater detail. That's all I got. Until tomorrow, thanks for watching. Stay healthy and stay safe, y'all. Bye.